Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services, Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by Prescott High School badminton coach Bobbi Yoder. She'll break down the talent within their section, talk about her returning players and what the team has to do to get a win on Tuesday against Barry Goldwater. We'll then be joined by former Mingus Union Marauder TBone Allred. He'll talk about his journey from rural Arizona to coaching football in the Czech Republic and discuss his playing days under former head coach Bob Young. But on the other side of this break, we'll be joined by Yavapai College Athletic Director Brad Clifford to talk about the start of the fall season, how the addition of four-year degree programs could change recruiting, and the return of men's and women's basketball. All of that and a whole lot more coming up right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Gettles High Desert Mechanical and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by Yavapai College Athletic Director Brad Clifford. Mr. Clifford, welcome back onto the program.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me back.
Well, happy to have you. Obviously, the fall sports season has kicked off at Yavapai College. A lot of exciting things going on there. How's the fall season going?
You know, it's been fantastic. First of all, we've been fighting a little bit of weather. We've gotten some weather. You hate to be angry at the rain, especially in Arizona, but it's kind of wreaked havoc a little bit on our baseball field. That we're not having much of a fall season on our baseball field. We've had to change some soccer games around. Volleyball has obviously not been affected. So it's been a little different this year. We've had to change games, which has kind of gotten us out of a routine. And men's soccer has kind of had to play here and play there. COVID's affected some schools down in the valley that we've had to change games there. But nonetheless, I'm proud of what we've done. I'm proud of what women's soccer has done. They started a brand new season. They won their first conference ever game the other night at Chandler Gilbert. That was exciting. And men's soccer, they're playing up some formidable opponents, but they're holding their own, and we got some big games coming up. And volleyball is going to be there. It's just, 2-year school. You're just trying. If you don't have a lot of sophomores, it's sophomore laden sport in junior college. If you don't have a lot of sophomores, there's a lot of learning curves there, and they're just running through some learning curves. And we've got a big game coming up here this week, and we'll be fine. By the end of the day, we're gonna be pretty good. I know.
Yeah, and let's talk about that volleyball team. We'll kind of break down each of those fall sports here a little bit more. I want to start with the volleyball team. 7 wins so far for the program this season. A lot of local talent, or I should say a lot of 4A Grand Canyon region talent. The program welcomes back Natalie Sanchez. She graduated from Lee Williams. This is her second year at Yavapai College. You've got 2 new freshmen in Brooke Parker and Rakenna Curtis, former Coconino High School Panthers, are now Yavapai College Rough Riders. And I got to say, we broadcasted the Mingus Marauder volleyball games last year, so we're here at Yavapai Yavapai Broadcasting, very familiar with the talent that Brooke Parker and Rakenna Curtis bring to this team. But I'd love to get an idea. I know you guys also had a few games played at Mingus Union High School, but just to tie that community involvement in with the players on the roster, and of course, some of these games finding their ways at some of the local high schools. But how has attendance been at home games? Where are we at with the, or I should say, what can you say to the community involvement that Yavapai College has with their athletics program?
It's been we haven't had too many home games. In fact, our first home game was a tournament, and we had a bunch of teams from across the country. And so we didn't have a lot of fans per se for those because they were coming from so far, and it was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday type thing. So we haven't had a first home game other than over at Mingus. And we had 2 home games over there prior to having any home games over here. And we had a great attendance at both those games. The first one, we had about 50 to 60 people there. And it was an exciting night to play our first ever game, match, anything over there in the Verde Valley. And then a couple weeks ago or last week, we did our second one over there. And we had quite a few because we played right after the Mingus game. And they were playing Tempe, I think, that night. And the teams were there. They stuck around. And our team, after the win, we got wins. Our team, after the wins, sat around with the Mingus high school team. And we just talked. We talked about college and what it takes to be a collegiate athlete and what does it take to do this and that and that. And it was really, really, I think, kind of special, not only for the high school kids, but I think for also our kids to be able to give back to them a little bit. So we're trying to get in the community. We're trying to recruit locally and locally, of course, being Yavapai County, we like to, but we got some kids from Flagstaff. I'm very familiar with the Flagstaff girls because they played against my daughters at Bradshaw Mountain. So I know how good they are. So it's been really neat. We're trying to, like I said, get into the community a little bit more. We're going to play some softball and baseball games over there in the spring. We just got to figure out the dates that we can do that. But nonetheless, we're trying to get over there. We're trying to recruit locally. There's great local talent here. We got to keep them home. That's the thing is most kids want to go away, and there's nothing wrong with that. Shoot, I went to Prescott High School and I wanted to go away. I ended up coming back, but nonetheless, that's all right. If they want to go away, that's great. But if they want to stay home, we want to keep them home, playing sports for Yavapai College.
Prescott Badger with 2 daughters who went to Bradshaw Mountain, Mr. Clifford. Come on.
There's a little bit of, when there's the rivalry, it's a rivalry. I took my Letterman's jacket out the couple years ago, and we were going to a Prescott High School Bradshaw Mountain football game. Needless to say, I couldn't get it on, first off. But the second off, my son, he pointed at me, yelled at me, "Get that thing off. You're not wearing that here." And so there's a little rivalry. My wife works at Bradshaw Mountain High School too. So there's that little choky there going on.
Moving, of course, there always is never any love lost between Prescott and Bradshaw. Of course, right. The 2 big rivalries here in the 4A Grand Canyon region. Again, we were speaking with Yavapai College Athletic Director Brad Clifford. Fall sports season's kicked off. Another program that kicked off their first inaugural season is the women's soccer program at Yavapai College. Was recently formed this year. They've added a head coach, obviously, able to earn, like you mentioned earlier, their first conference win this month. Got their first program win in August. Let's just talk about the momentum that kind of sets as this program continues to grow and continues to welcome in new players and hopefully see some players go on to bigger and better things. But what kind of momentum does this, first couple wins of the season set for the program going forward?
Well, the momentum started in the first win, and that was a big win for us over Southern Nevada. That's a Division I NJCAA competition coming in here, and we quite frankly spanked them. We did a great job, scored a bunch of goals. The community was able to see, the excitement that women's soccer is, collegiate women's soccer is at the junior college level, and so that carried it over. That carried it from game to game, and then we had a great game against Snow. Snow's ranked, I think, in the top 3 right now, but we played them real strong. We got our first conference game win the other night. We played a bunch of conference games until we got to the conference games, which is kind of weird to say. But we played Chandler Gilbert down there and beat them 2-0 and looked really good. And we're getting better game by game. Last night we played Mesa Community College and we lost 2-0. But you know what? We played well. We defended well, and we're getting better game by game. Rosie, the head coach, Rosie DeWeese, she's doing a great job. She's not getting frustrated with the kids. This is obviously going to help recruiting. Not only statewide or nationally. It's going to help us recruiting locally. It's just going to get better. Rosie is a great coach. She's a great motivator. She's a Division I former coach, and then she's got a great assistant coach in Keely McLaughlin, and she does a great job as well. So the momentum's there. We're getting better day by day and game by game. Will we make the playoffs? That's what we're hoping for. If we can get to the playoffs our first year, how cool would that be? Yep. But if we don't, we're getting better every day.
Let's flip it over to the men's side of the soccer program. Of course, Coach Pantaleone leaves the program. He started the program there at Yavapai College. It's the first time that this program has ever had a brand new coach. 5 wins so far on the season for the men's soccer program. Just, how are things going over there?
They're a little frustrated right now. They lost one last night that they shouldn't have lost, and they felt they shouldn't have lost against a very good Mesa team. But they feel good about what they're doing. Again, it's a process throughout the season. If you're sophomore laden, if you got a lot of sophomores, it's going to make it easier. But when you got a lot of freshmen coming in, there's that learning curve and figuring out the physicality of the play, what you can and can't do. Hey, this person is just as fast as I am. Whereas in high school, I was probably faster than everybody else. So they're trying to figure that out, and they're going to get there even better here shortly as the season goes on. Like I said, we had a couple losses this last weekend. The bottom line is we want to be playing our best ball towards the end of the season. Right. If you're playing your best ball and you're peaking towards the end of the season, what more can you ask for? You just don't want to get so far behind that it doesn't help you in the end anyway. So, but we're doing real well. Andre's doing a great job. He was the first goalie ever at Yavapai College. He was an All-American here. He won a national championship here. So he is very, very experienced to be able to take this job, and he's doing a great job. Him and Harold Warren, the assistant coach, they're doing a great job with these kids. And again, remember, these are kids. There are a lot of freshmen that are trying to figure it out, and they're going to be there towards the end.
The college is also bringing back basketball for both the women's and the men's program. First time that we've seen Yavapai College basketball, I think, since 2011. That will be starting the 2022-2023 season. So next fall, we should be seeing some basketball being played at Yavapai College. Another addition to the school is possible additions of 4-year programs. I want to ask, obviously, you're welcoming in a new program, so recruiting is great. You want to bring in more people to play basketball. Obviously opens up a lot of doors for kids here in the community to continue their basketball career. Same with obviously how women's soccer is allowing more opportunity as well. Do these 4-year programs change recruiting at all, considering that you guys are a JC and a lot of people, not everybody, likes to usually utilize their eligibility and be done in 2 years, move on to something else, or potentially finish out at Yavapai College or transfer. So I'm just curious, does this change the recruiting game plan at all?
I don't think so. Not until we decide as a college that we want to make our sports 4 years. Okay. I don't think it's necessary. It's going to change our recruiting. Now you're going to have some of those kids, we specialize in nursing here at Yavapai College. We've got an incredible nursing program. It's a two-year program. You can go on down to ASU or NEU and you can get those 4-year degrees in nursing. I think, depending on what we decide to offer, I think we can start offering that. So some kids, they just want to do that. They want to play 2 years and then let's go do our schooling. There's nothing wrong with that. Go do that. They can finish here at Yavapai College. But I think as far as recruiting goes, until we decide as an institution that we want to go 4-year in the athletic realm, we're going to probably stick with the same type of recruiting as far as the two-year program goes. Get them here, have them for 2 years. Let's get them graduated. That's our goal, is to get them graduated, move them on to the university, no matter where that may be.
Again, we were speaking with Yavapai College Athletic Director Brad Clifford. Mr. Clifford, before we let you go, where can people go if they want to learn more about Yavapai College athletics?
The best place to go is to the horse's mouth. First off, call me anytime. I'd love to talk. I'll talk to Yavapai College athletics till I'm blue in the face, right? I'm sorry, green and gold in the face. I should say that, right? But call me at the school. You can reach me. Call the main line. Call me. I don't care. I'll talk to you whenever, wherever. But otherwise, go to www.goroughriders.com, and that's our website. DJ Irwin runs our website, and he does a great job with that. We're on social media, Twitter, whatever else we have, Facebook. What's the Instagram? DJ takes care of all that, so I'm not too up on that. But yeah, we're all over the place. Come and check us out. Give me a call. Come to our games. Our schedules are on the website, so please come and watch us play. We're an exciting group, one way or the other.
Well, Mr. Clifford, you were right. The Rough Riders, a lot of fun to check out. Again, you can visit goroughriders.com if you want to learn more about the athletics programs, how to join, how to check them out, how to watch. Whatever you want to do, goroughriders.com is the place to go to check out Yavapai College athletics. Mr. Clifford, thank you very much for coming on and talking to us about about the programs here. I know you're very passionate about Yavapai College, and it's always great speaking with you.
I appreciate your time, and thanks for having me, and go Rough Riders.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Prescott High School badminton coach Bobbi Yoder right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Gettles High Desert Mechanical and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by a familiar face of the program. She is Prescott High School badminton coach Bobbi Yoder. Coach Yoder, welcome on to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Well, happy to have you, Coach. You run a very good program over at Prescott High School. We've had you on a couple times to talk about that program. And of course, badminton is a fall sport, so you guys are right in the midst of your 2021 season. Started the year off playing against Agua Fria, having a great year so far for the Badgers. How did it feel, Coach, to just get back out there after a very weird COVID year? I know still a good year for the Badgers on paper, but COVID was a little bit of a toss-up for everyone else. But how did it feel to get back out there against Agua Fria and start the season with a win?
Yeah, no, it's definitely good to get back out there and with a few less restrictions in place and to kind of have fans in the stands too. It's kind of a nice thing because that was a little limited last year as well. So the girls had a good summer. We're able to get in the gym a lot and, a lot of open gyms and just working on stuff. And so they were definitely chomping at the bit to get back to it. So it was nice for them and to do something other than practice and just to start the season. So.
Can we talk about that first game against Agua Fria, Coach? I mean, and just going forward here on the season, I mean, what did your team show you in that first match just to kind of set the tone for the rest of the season?
It was a little bit slow starting, the first few matches of the season. You could tell we were a little bit rusty and we definitely had things to improve on. But, if you're going to see it, that's where you want to see it at the beginning of the season. And so they're aware of that and they're working in the right direction and we're kind of building, day by day and match by match. And they're definitely going in the right direction. I'm happy with our progress so far, but there's definitely a lot to work on in preparation for state. So
you return a lot of players this year. Your roster compiling mostly of upperclassmen in terms of grade average, not necessarily experience in badminton, but you got 2 seniors on the roster and Tabitha Briner and Nicole Reese. You also returned 5 juniors, Lindsay Carter, Megan Townsend, just to name a few. How's the chemistry of the team feel this year?
Pretty good. It was 4 of the 7 were varsity kids last year. The 5 and the 6 spot and the 7 spot were all JV kids last year and played in the 1 and the 2 spot and then a little bit lower. So those were the ones that I really, am trying to make sure that we're ready, for the varsity level and trying to give them as much competition as possible, in practice and in these matches. Cause it's, as you know, it's kind of tough to necessarily see it in all of the teams that we play. But the postseason, it's going to come down to those spots, how we perform against the level of competition that we're going to face. And so trying to throw them in those situations, at these tournaments that we go to and just having them play the higher ups in practice. Because I really truly feel it's going to come down to those positions. at the end of the season. So.
Coach, you welcome in sophomore Riley Crockett. She was a freshman on the varsity team last year. Her sister Kaylee, obviously a 4-year starter at Prescott High School. I almost got it. That's a bad one if I say that one. But no, over at Prescott High School. But Riley coming in with a little bit of experience last year in her second season here on the team. How has she developed as a player for you?
She has come a long way. I mean, she definitely came in her freshman year and was ready to. She wasn't able to necessarily take somebody's spot in the top 6 right off the bat. But we had enough talent last year where I was able to kind of throw her in where she got she pretty much played almost every single singles match for the season. And a lot of that was in preparation, for the postseason last year, but also because I knew she was going to be one of my main kids this year. So just to try to get her as much as we could last year. And, she's definitely one that has just grown tremendously, throughout last year and already this year. It's rare that we have a kid that comes into the program that is a 4-year varsity letterman. And she's definitely going to be one of those. And again, the sky's the limit for that kid. She still hasn't even reached anywhere near her potential, and she's pretty good. So.
Again, we were speaking with Prescott High School badminton coach Bobbi Yoder. The Badgers currently continuing their season here as we're getting close to not necessarily the end, but we're getting close to the start of section play, which we'll talk here in a little bit. Coach, you also not only welcome back a lot of returners on the court, but off the court, you welcome back in recent graduate Kaylee Crockett. We talked a little bit during the offseason that Kaylee was going to be coming on to help you out coach the team. How has she embraced her new role with the team?
She has definitely embraced it, and it's kind of nice to have somebody come back and want to help out and, help out the program that they've been a part of and that they helped build. That we have 22 kids in the program this year, and 14 of them are brand new to the sport. And some of them may have known her before, but, all they know is what they've heard. And, that she was my number 1 last year. But for them to actually see it, see her perform and see her help them in practice, that some of them just don't realize just how special she was, until they kind of see her work out there. And it's funny, you started with the Agua Fria match. We were there playing them at their place, and that coach, he's a pretty good guy. But every time we go to his place, he's like, hey, look, can I play one of your top players? And of course we had already gotten done, and they all have their sandals on, and half of them are in the bathroom or somewhere else, and she just chimes in. She's like, I'll play you. I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is my number 1 from last year. I'm like, she'll give you a run for your money, And so she goes out there and proceeds to just smoke him. I think she beat him 21-11. And at this point, it's just exhibition matches going on. All JV and varsity matches had already finished. And there's probably about 50 kids in the gym. I think most of the parents had left by that point. And they were his team was giving him it was basically just giving him a hard time. And you would have thought that place was packed out with how loud they were cheering for her during that. But then I think they just had a whole different level of respect for her because they actually saw her, play somebody pretty good. And so she's brought a lot to the program. I think she helps these kids see that, because she's another one that could barely hit the bird, the first day that she came, and to what she's, what level she's at now. I think it helps them relate and to have some hope, and, that if they're willing to work hard, that they could get to that same level. So that's worth a lot, really. So, well,
it provides a lot of credibility as well. So that when, she's instructing players, because of course, like you said, there are girls who played with Kaylee last year on the roster. And when you do bring in a former player, you do have the possibility of not seeing, not having your former teammates, now your students, sort of gain that respect early on, because they still see you as their peer. They still see you as sort of, oh, well, Kaylee was on the team last year. She's like, what does she know? Coach Yoder's going to tell me what to do. But it kind of adds a little credibility. And of course, who doesn't love seeing their coach, lose in a battle one-on-one? I remember playing basketball and baseball. We'd have battles against coaches, and it was always very fun when somebody would play against a basketball coach one-on-one or do a 3-point shootout or a free throw contest and, everybody's all cheering and stuff. But how great that Kaylee has come on now and provided a little bit more of that veteran experience for, like you mentioned, you've got a bunch of new players this year. But on top of that, the players who didn't get to play with her last year kind of see, oh yeah, there's a reason why she was Bobby's number one last year.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it goes a long way. And it just gives them someone that, that a little more relatable and can help them kind of understand me a little bit. Cause talking to the coach is not always the easiest thing in the world. So sometimes it gives them somebody to bounce things off of, before they take that next step. So it's been good all the way around, I think, for her and most definitely for us. So
again, we were speaking with Prescott High School badminton coach Bobbi Yoder. Like I said, the Badgers badminton season is continuing here in the fall sports season. Coach, JV team also playing very well this year. What have you liked from your lower levels?
Again, 1 out of the 15 JV kids that we have is a returner. All the rest are brand new. And it's freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And so just the work they're putting in and trying to get better. And sometimes it's hard to see those results right away, like your first year, to recognize that yourself. But like I said, the majority of them could barely hit the bird now. And now they can get through matches and they're winning matches. We were missing a few kids on the horizon one, so we weren't able to kind of pull that one out, but it was a very close match. And if we would have been full strength, we probably definitely would have won that. So just proud of them for working hard. And I think they're, pulling some of these close matches out. I think they are starting to kind of realize that, hey, yeah, we're already making big improvements. So.
Well, and this is a program that comes in with so much history with it. I mean, I know you took over a couple of years ago, and we'll talk about that. But consistently, Coach, since you've taken over, and we talked about this the first time right around this year, last year, when you first came on the show, just talking about how consistent this program has been since you've taken over, with finishing with undefeated records or finishing with just 1 or 2 losses and being a constant playoff team. I mean, there comes with a great reputation to this program. And, like you said, you're welcoming in a lot of new players, but these players are aware of almost what is expected out of them throughout the season. I mean, I know you're not going in there going, if we lose a game, it's over, I'm gonna flip out. But I mean, you've set a precedent, Coach, where a lot of these girls could be competing for a state title every year they're a part of this program.
Yeah, we definitely have that conversation with the younger ones, because sometimes, and it's just a different generation now. They come in with a different work ethic and all of that. And it's just the generation. So you have to sometimes kind of sit them down and let them know that these kids that are at the varsity level, were right where you are right now, but they made a decision, they made a commitment, that they were going to come work hard, and try and improve their individual skills and in turn improve their team. And it's literally just a decision and a commitment. It really is that simple. And if you're willing to do that, then, I promise you're going to see results sooner than later. And so it's just a matter of whether they buy in. I mean, not everyone always buys in. Some of them are there for social reasons or because their friend does it or whatever. So you're always going to have those few that sometimes take a little longer to buy in, or that maybe never buy in. But for the most part, the majority of them, they kind of heard that and they see it in the varsity girls and take it for what it's worth. So,
Coach, taking a look at the season here, if memory serves me right, I don't believe the Badgers were able to participate in too many midseason tournaments this year, but you do participate in 2 this season. The Birdie Bash earlier this year, a little bit earlier this month, I should say, and the Westwood Badminton Birdie Blitz, which are 2 invitationals that you guys got an opportunity to participate in. Coach, I just want to talk a little bit, before we get into how the teams did, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the competition you saw. These are teams that you might see in the playoffs? Are they teams that maybe will be on the schedule next season, teams that you're familiar with? Who did you guys see during that competition?
Mostly Division I teams, which is a good thing. I like that because it's, some better programs, better competition, which is the whole purpose of doing that for us, especially this year and last year. Campo Verde and Saguaro were at the Basha Invitational. And so those are two Division II teams as well. Saguaro more than likely will not make the tournament, but they'll probably have kids in the individual one.
Okay.
The Basha one, though, was all Division I teams except for us. And again, it's just a different level of competition, and I had 3 or 4 top 10 teams from Division I at that tournament. And again, that's, we're just trying to get our top kids some better competition, get some challenges so that they can kind of work on what they need to work on. And it just exposes the weaknesses that we need to clean up so that when we face, Campo Verde and Ironwood and those top 5 teams at the end of the season, we don't just get punched in the mouth, so.
Yeah. And like you said, you guys get an opportunity to play against some of those Division I teams, the obviously teams you never get to really see too much outside of these invitationals. So it's good competition all around. Like you said, there's also a few teams you'll see in state and in playoffs as well. Coach, section has already kicked off. You guys have played a few teams in your section already this season. Kind of going into the rest of the year as you really start to kick off, the remainder of the section schedule and a couple more freedom games. But what can you say about the competition that you've seen so far within your team's section?
It really is, as far as like team wise, Horizon is really the only one that was going to be a challenge. And they were actually missing their top player. She was at a softball tournament. She's being highly recruited, I guess, for softball. So that definitely was a little bit of a bummer not facing them at full strength. I don't know that it would have been a 9-0 sweep, but I still think we would have pulled that out. So that was unfortunate that they weren't full strength, but it is what it is. That was basically for a section championship. I mean, it was going to come down to them and us, and they don't come full strength. So I don't know what to say to that other than, we took it seriously and we showed up and we took names. So
well, Coach, it only makes that second matchup against them even more interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah, and for sure. But again, my kids are taking every match seriously and showing up and putting the work in, and they're definitely enjoying some success from that hard work. But really, that short of the top 1, 2, maybe 3 positions for each of the teams that we face, the rest of the team isn't really getting challenged all that much. And even some of those positions aren't really challenging matches for them. So, again, that's why we do the tournaments. I'm doing the best I can to try to throw teams at them to challenge them. But, until they're willing to give us who we asked for, it's just the reality of it. And it's probably going to hurt us in the PowerPoint rankings as well.
Right.
You can only get so high when you're playing teams. I've literally played the last place team in the rankings. And that just doesn't help you. It doesn't help that team, and it doesn't help us.
Exactly. But of course, on the flip side of that, Coach, I mean, it's competition is competition. I mean, you guys are kind of the only team here in Northern Arizona. So a lot of that badminton talent that is hiding up here is kind of, if they're not finding their way to Prescott, you're not spreading amongst the talent. You're kind of getting all of the talent into one program here. Whereas in Phoenix, obviously, Prescott is the only school here in Northern Arizona that has a badminton program, to my knowledge. And we talked about it the first time you were ever on the show. A lot of the teams, if not all of the teams you're playing, are either in Maricopa County or they're in the Tucson area. They're not up here. So maybe that's the deal, Coach. Maybe you're just getting all the best players and they all happen to be living in Prescott, and some programs struggle, some have ups and downs, whereas your program just seems to constantly keep going up, Coach.
Yeah. Well, again, that you attribute that to just having pure athletes come out for it, that care about it and want to get better and improve their team. So, yeah.
One last question, Coach, before we let you go. I do want to remind people who are listening, the Badgers will be taking on Barry Goldwater on October 5th. So that's their next upcoming game. But Coach, just before we let you go, I want to ask, you've been coaching this program for a little while. I know you were initially kind of just taking it on as just to help out the program. You also were the varsity basketball coach. You've stepped away from that particular role. Now you've taken on this team full strength. This year, you're also in a new administrative role. Congratulations again on that. But I just want to ask, Coach, how has this experience grown you, not only as a coach, but as a person taking over this program?
Yeah, that's a big loaded question.
I usually get one or two per interview. So
yeah, it was definitely very humbling at first because, like I said, coming in to coach a sport that you've only played a few times as a kid in the backyard, definitely you got to do your homework and put yourself in a position to help these kids be successful. Because if you're not doing that, then you really shouldn't be doing it, in my opinion. So, but it's definitely a sport that I grew to love like almost immediately. And it's been a great group of kids every year that make it fun and make it fun to be there and fun to coach, Yeah. And as long as it's, a good thing for them and they're getting something out of it, that's something I'm going to continue to do. So.
Well, Coach, congratulations again on the new administrative role and congratulations on what is so far a very successful season for the Badgers. Of course, there's still a lot more games to be played here for Coach Yoder and her Prescott Badgers. Again, they've got a match coming up on October 5th, taking on Barry Goldwater, a section team. Coach Yoder, as always, thank you very much for coming on the show and talking about this wonderful program.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by a former Mingus Union Marauder, TBone Allred, to talk about why he's now coaching football in the Czech Republic. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by former Mingus Union Marauder TBone Allred. TBone, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Well, we're very happy to have you, man. For those of you who are unfamiliar, TBone graduated from Mingus Union High School in 2008, playing football during his time there at Mingus Union High School. Finished his senior year with 20 total tackles, 4 sacks a game, and 1 blocked punt, according to Max Preps. Now he finds himself, I'm going to pronounce the name wrong, but T-Bone, obviously I'll give you a chance to kind of correct me here, the Pilsen Patriots of the Czech Republic. He is coaching that team. So T-Bone, I want to know, man, from the beginning to the end, how did you get from little Cottonwood, Arizona? You're originally from Clarkdale. How did you get from small town AZ across the pond to the Czech Republic?
It was a magical thing. I was, playing football, went from Mingus, and I was coaching a little bit, bouncing around from different programs. And this guy pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, have you thought about coaching overseas?" And I was like, "No." And I was coaching at Sedona High School as their head coach or their assistant head coach. And we put out our name and nothing happened. And then COVID hit and these guys hit up and this guy was like, "I've been trying to get a hold of you for like years." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You have experience with little kids," because I coached all the way through all the little kid stuff, Pop Warner, all the way through. And he was like, "We'd like to do some interviews." I did some interviews, and he was like, "You're not the guy we're looking for." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "But I have this assistant that's taken over in the Czech Republic." And they called me, and they're like, "So we flew out, we did our interviews, and it's been perfect." It's been crazy. It's like coaching from the groundwork all the way up, but it's legit.
Yeah, it's crazy how you get this opportunity presented to you. You're coaching over at Sedona, like you said, and this opportunity just kind of almost falls into your lap. I mean, did he provide any clarification as to like why you were so sought out? I mean, was it just your, like you mentioned, your previous experience? Is that kind of what attracted them to you?
Yeah, like we went, I guess he was at some of the tryouts that I went to, and then some of the 7-on-7s that we went to, because like we went to one with the Cardinals where we weren't even supposed to be there. But everybody knew us as like, hey, why are these linemen here? So it spread like that. And then they found out that I was coaching. And then they found out that we were coaching like multiple teams at one point. And they're like, if you're coaching like little kids all the way up from 7 all the way up to high school, and it was like every day of the week. So it was like, this man must love football. And so he's like, that's what we're looking for. We want to bring that type of atmosphere to the Czech Republic. So.
All right. Well, before we keep going with your journey to the Czech Republic, I want to back up a little bit more back to your time here in Cottonwood and Clarkdale. So like I mentioned, you played football at Mingus Union High School. Did you play any other sports, and how did you get involved with football initially?
I played football since I was 4 years old, all the way from the mini Marauders. I played safety to the safety my first year. The whole goal was just to run and jump on top of the pile. And I played all the way up to Mingus. That was the goal. My dad played at Mingus. Everybody I knew played at Mingus. We sat in the stands every Friday night. Like, it gets crazy. Like, we are like Friday Night Lights. The stands are packed. Like, that's what you do on a Friday night. My parents didn't plan date night. Friday night was date night. So I grew up with Mingus for a while. That's all I wanted was a Mingus jersey, you know?
And that's interesting. So, I get an opportunity to do play-by-play with Nick Yatsenko, who you did play alongside with, and Nick was actually the one who helped coordinate this interview. So shout out to Nick Yatsenko for helping us out with that. But he's talked about those times, and I was sitting there with his mom and dad looking through their notebook or their photo book of this town almost shutting down because there was Mingus football going on Friday. And, I know now that Mingus has struggled a little bit recently with their football program, but the passion is still there. We've been on road games and have seen this Marauder faithful travel. We've been on at home games, obviously, and seen the cave, obviously last year, not as much because of the COVID, but I mean, my first year, and we haven't gotten there yet this year, but the atmosphere, everybody knows each other. Everybody is there. You feel like the whole town's there when the cave is rocking on a Friday night. You're right, man. That is a feeling all on its own.
Big time. I can remember there not being a spot to sit down. You didn't show up at 7 because you weren't getting in. You showed up at 5 and you put out your blanket for, I mean, it still gives me goosebumps. It's crazy. The energy is just unbelievable. Again, we were speaking with former Mingus Union High School Marauder TBone Allred. He is currently a coach with the Pilsen Patriots of the Czech Republic. They are an American football team. Well, I guess the sport is American football, but they are a Czech Republic football team. He's currently overseas helping them with that. What was that culture shock, man? I mean, you get an opportunity to go from Cottonwood after you graduate. No, not directly, but you find yourself coaching at Sedona. You're still kind of staying in the football realm. You get this opportunity to go to the Czech Republic. I mean, was there any kind of a culture shock for you when you first went over there? Or are they pretty much have the same feeling in terms of football? No, it's big time crazy. Back home, we eat, breathe, and sleep football. I stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning watching NFL, watching you guys, all that type of stuff. These guys, like, tomorrow's a holiday. They're like, we're going to go to a holiday. I'm like, what? What about practice? They're like, no. Like, we need to reschedule. I'm like, what do you mean? This kid was like, oh, my ankle hurts a little bit. And I'm like, get up, get back in there. We're trying to bring that. It doesn't matter. You get back in, you do what you got to do. And the language barrier has been insane.
Right.
Like, we talk so much, but hands and boom, and and like then I have a translator that comes in. Like, it's been a crazy time. I mean, you're coaching all the way from like people that haven't played yet all the way up to we got a first year corner that's unbelievable, but you're starting fresh. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's crazy.
Yeah. And that's really interesting too. You don't necessarily think. I mean, I know the NFL has tried to. There's been talks about putting a team in England or putting a team in Canada again, or not again, but for the first time. But it's interesting. There's a European Football League. There's obviously the league that you're a part of with your football team. It seems like the popularity of American style football is really starting to grow a little bit more overseas.
Big time. Yeah. We get a lot of fans. Everybody loves it. You walk through town, they know who you are. People show up. They have no idea what's happening, but they love it. It hits harder than anything else. People come out. They love the American spirit. It's just the way of football hasn't got out here yet. They like it, but it's like, we need like the soccer mentality. Like football's everything,
Yeah.
And it hasn't reached here yet.
No, and you make a great point with soccer. I mean, obviously soccer is huge in Europe and in Latin America and really everywhere. You think about, honestly, soccer is huge everywhere but America. I mean, if you think about it, Americans, we have so many sports: football, baseball, basketball, soccer, golf, tennis. I mean, it just goes, the list goes on and on and on in terms of the popularity. But if you polled Americans, they would all say probably the same three: baseball, basketball, and football. You can interchange those. And then soccer, golf, and a couple other would fall in and out of 3 and 4, depending on who you're speaking with. But a majority of Americans, like you said, really would gravitate more towards this version of football. And you're right, it's too bad there isn't that soccer atmosphere just yet for overseas American football.
Big time. Yeah, it's coming though. It'll happen.
Yeah. Well, and it's exciting if it gets that opportunity there. You talked a little bit about the language barrier. I believe the official language in the Czech Republic is Czech, which is sort of like a style on like Polish or Slavic language, almost kind of like German. But I do know they speak some English. So let's talk a little bit more about that language barrier. What was it like on that first day when you stepped in trying to coach these guys and they're kind of staring at you, not only just because they're not sure what you're trying to do, but also just sort of like, with that language barrier of you coming in as an American bred man and talking to these guys? Were you able to hear that?
Okay, you're back?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. We do have some connection issues.
No worries. It was crazy. Even like as soon as we got off the plane, I was like, "Hi, my name's TBone," and the guy was like, "No." I was like, "Are you from the team?" He's like, "Yes." I was like, "Okay, are we going to go?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Okay, like what's going to happen?" I'm like, "This is my ride, But as soon as we got to the field, I was like, "Who speaks English?" I'm like, "Defense this side, offense this side." Offense, they had 8 guys raise their hand. Defense, I had 2. And one is a kid that doesn't even play on the team. He just shows up to practice and plays in the practice.
Okay.
So I'm like, great. I'm like, you're my starting middle linebacker because I can communicate to you. It's crazy. We've come a long way because now we have plays. Like I had this play that says purple in it. Okay. They can't pronounce purple. So we had to eliminate that all the way through, like just little stuff. And then all the way to up, like I'll be coaching and they just turn and they're like, I have no idea what you said. Right. I'm like, great. So then I have to pull my translator, pull somebody in and like translate. Or I'll be yelling on the field and the kid's like, I don't know what that means. And you can't do anything. You're stuck. But they understand, for the most part. But every once in a while, you're like, uh-oh, I don't know how this is going to go down.
Well, it's interesting too, Coach, because it almost kind of provides a little bit of an advantage because obviously you're playing against fellow Czech, American-speaking teams. So is there almost a little bit of an advantage to having those English words or those American pronunciation of those words in your offensive and defensive schemes?
Yes, as long as you use words that aren't like mainstream. Okay. Like if you're like blitz, they've heard that. But if you're like, hey, you're free, you can go. They're like, okay. Especially the younger kids know a little bit of English. The older guys don't. Okay. So you're like, hey, you're free. You can go. You can post, you can do this type of stuff. And so it has a huge advantage as long as you've already covered what it means with your team. Yeah. I think so.
Coach, you got an opportunity to get some games under your belt here this season. How did the season go for the football team this year?
So far, we're 5-1, and so we have a bye this week, but a game next week. This last game, they closed it at halftime. We were winning 70-0, and the other team was like, "We don't want to show up. We're good." And so they actually closed and came and ate sausages with us. Like they were like. Sausage and beer. They just came and hung out. I was like, I'd never seen it before in my life. They're like, we're good. We're like, are you guys hurt? They're like, no. We're like, okay. Yeah. They're just like, we're done. Like, you guys win. Congrats.
What a very interesting sort of cultural divide there, Coach, because obviously 70-0 at halftime. I mean, we've all been on the receiving ends of maybe not that bad of a blowout, but a loss where it seems like the hill is just too high to climb. You're kind of like, okay, who can we get in? Who can we get our subs in? And how interesting they kind of go, well, we quit. Let's go eat food together. It's so interesting.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, we're done. I've never experienced that.
Yeah, no, of course not. I mean, neither have I. It's always been, oh, man, I mean, you hate being on the receiving end of it. But if you're the team that's up 70-0, it's probably also a bit of a change, too, where your opponent goes, hey, I don't really want to play anymore. We're done. You guys win by enough.
Right. I got some people on the team that are mad. I didn't get in the game. I'm like, I didn't have a second half. I didn't get to rotate you in. Like, it just didn't happen,
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's crazy.
5-1 start, Coach. That's fantastic. I want to bounce back here a little bit to your time at Mingus Union High School. Again, TBone Allred is currently a coach on the staff at Pilsen, the Pilsen Patriots of the Czech Republic. He's coaching overseas right now. He was a former Mingus Union Marauder in the heyday of Bob Young. So I would be remiss, T-Bone, if I didn't ask you about your time being coached under Bob Young. Can you just tell me some of your experiences with that?
Coach Young, it's crazy because I'll be thinking back and some of the drills he put in. The dude's crazy, and they work so well, and it's so unorthodox. People are like, why are you bringing a tire to practice? I'm like, because we need it for this drill. Like, the guy instills such drive and commitment, and it's just overwhelming. And the guy's so smart, and he's all about winning. This team's like, oh, wouldn't second place be nice? No, it's not nice. That sucks. He's amazing. His winning attitude is just unbelievable. His coaching style is unbelievable. I stole a little bit of his defense, and so he's amazing. He's a great, great coach. Yeah, great mentor.
We'll make sure not to pass it off to your Czech Republic opponents so they can go watch most of those defensive plays on Verde Valley TV's YouTube channel. But from the coaches and the players that I've gotten a chance to talk to that have played under Coach Young, it's only been a handful. They kind of share the same sentiment. Even Nick has talked to me, whether it's during a broadcast or off the field, about some of the traditions that Coach Young had and some of the things that he implemented, and just the methodical nature of how he is as a coach. I had Coach Rick Walsworth, one of your former coaches, on the show last week, and he talked about the impact of Bob Young and how it helped him as a coach and how it got him started. I kind of have a feeling Bob might be the answer to this question, but I'm curious, T-Bone, is there anybody that you sort of model your style off after? It doesn't have to be Coach Young, but anybody, college, pros, maybe high school, amateur, maybe your time at the Czech Republic. Is there any coach that you kind of look at and go, this is who I want to be?
Yeah, Coach Young, big time. His winning atmosphere, everything like that. Neil Dixon, his defense, that's actually where I stole most of the defense from. And he had a laid back, like it's going to work. And, sometimes it comes up, they're like, oh, no, we're on the 5-yard line. And I'm like, it's going to happen. And we come up with a pick or something big. And that's awesome. I put a lot. And John Balo, he was there. And he was just kind of like the guy that, I'm going to work you. You're going to show respect. Everything's going to happen. What I say is how it goes. And he was just old school. I love that. So those three are kind of like where I get a lot of my inspiration from as far as high school. So.
We don't talk too much about Coach Balo. Coach John Balo, who is also an assistant coach for the baseball team still currently, has been a long-time assistant and also when he was coaching football at Mingus Union. But, I agree. I have only limited experience with Coach Young. I obviously didn't get a chance to play under him because I'm not from here. But from what I've heard, it seems like that sentiment rings true, where a lot of guys, him, Coach Dixon, Coach Walsworth, and any other assistants really have all just been impacted, and it seems like it continues here with his former players.
Big time. Yeah, they definitely imprinted on our lives, definitely.
So, just kind of continue our conversation here about your time at Mingus. Do you have a special memory or a specific game that you kind of reminisce on every now and then?
Yeah, the last time we played Bradshaw, and I heard Bradshaw's coming up.
They are.
I had an unbelievable game. And I blocked a punt. I broke some ribs, broke my foot, and I was just out. And they were loading me up. I had an asthma attack, and I was going from the field to the office, and I passed out. And they took me in the ambulance. And Coach Young came, and Coach Dixon came, and they grabbed me by my foot, and they're like, Coach, we're proud of you. And I was like, what? I was like, did you guys just say that out loud? Oh, my goodness. It was so awesome. When we got there, and I saw my Fletcher McMaster played with us, and he was like, hey, what happened at the hospital? I was like, I don't know. But Coach was like, I'm proud of you. He's like, did they say those words? I was like, out loud. He's like, I love it. That was one of my greatest memories. Kicking Bradshaw out the playoffs and, winning that game and Coach Young being proud. Yeah, I love that.
I've talked with Nick a little bit about his experience with Bradshaw Mountain. I know you kind of just expressed one, but I mean, can we just talk about in general the rivalry between these two schools? I know it may not be as big as it once was, but just from your experience playing against Bradshaw, what was that like for you?
Oh, Bradshaw was huge. Bradshaw said that we were a rivalry before we knew it. And they're like, we're coming to get you. And I was like, okay, here it comes. And so during my time there, it became a huge rivalry. And you don't lose to them. You don't lose to Flag. You don't lose to Bradshaw. Like, that just happens. One of my players showed up and was wearing a green shirt. I was like, you got to change your shirt. I was like, why? I was like, we don't wear green shirts on the field. You know, it's just something that stuck with me. I was like, that's off. It's game day and you're wearing green. But Bradshaw, yeah, I mean, it takes whatever it takes to win. You know, you got to strap it up, dig deep, play the game as clean as you can and get it done. But yeah, Bradshaw, definitely huge deal there.
Is it true that you guys used to wear green shirts during Eagle Week? That's what Nick called it. He called it Eagle Week. Is that true? You guys would wear shirts that's something about beating Flagstaff or something. Is that true?
They weren't green. They were white. They had green letters. I would say beat Flag or crush Flag, and we'd wear them. We weren't allowed to wear them at the game, but all week long we'd wear them up in the weight room, and it would say like beat Flag, and he'd hang up articles that would be like Flag, what they'd say about us and stuff like that to get you pumped up. And like, it goes deep. It goes deep. It's deep up there too when you show up and you walk out and they find out you're from Mingus. Like, it's still old school deep. Like, I'll see some people that I know and I'm like, hey, like, people are like, you like that guy? I'm like, kind of. He went to Flagstaff, you know? So,
Coach, what's going to happen when you get that second opportunity with a new team and they're green? What are you going to do?
I don't know. That might be a deal breaker.
Well, I mean, I hate to say that because there's a lot of really good football and college teams that would love to have you, Coach. You happen to have that green outline, but hey, you know what? That passion bleeds very, very deep for you Marauder fans here. Those rivalries are very, very deep. You know, it's probably a little weird for you now with Bob Young coaching over at Bradshaw. I mean, how weird is that? I know you haven't been directly involved with it, but just as an outsider looking in, I mean, seeing Bob on the opposite side of the sidelines, he's coaching the opposition.
It's weird. It's weird. I mean, the first time I found out about it, I was like, excuse me? Like, Coach Young, like Bob Young. And ever since then, we're like, wow, it's definitely crazy. But I totally understand it from a coaching point. As far as a player point, it's kind of, you know, it just gives you another opportunity. Like, hey, we're still going to kick your trash. Like, you know, and the rivalry just grew a little bit more. Yeah. You know, so, but I wish him the best.
Well, T-Bone, thank you very much for coming on and talking about your experiences, not only playing under Coach Bob Young, but also with your new position here in the Czech Republic. I hope it continues to great success for the Patriots. They're 5-1 right now. T-Bone was saying they got a game coming up real soon. Just out of curiosity, I know the time difference is a nightmare, but is there any way that if anyone wanted to watch the team, could they go watch the Patriots somewhere? Is there a streaming service or anywhere to check it out?
Yeah, it's all on Facebook. You type in the Pilsen Patriots. I usually have stuff on my Facebook page. You know, it's just TBone Allred, and they can go and stream it, or they'll show it constantly. CAAF.CZ. They can watch it, see how we stack up against everybody in the league and stuff like that.
T-Bone, I appreciate you coming on, man. Like I said, to talk about your experience. Best of luck with the Patriots going forward.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We are going to call it a show. I'd like to thank all my guests for coming on the show this week. I'd like to again thank Mr. Allred for coming on and talking about his experiences now coaching at the Czech Republic, coming from Mingus and going overseas. Very, very interesting. You never know who's going to pop on the show here on Off the Bench. And with that, I'd like to thank all my guests for coming on the show this week. I am your host, Philip Catafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week, and we will see you again next time.